Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Roger Petrie. I am co-coordinator of the Regional Center of Expertise on Education for Sustainable Development, or more briefly, RCE Saskatchewan, and a philosophy professor at Luther College at the University of Regina. I'm delighted to be able to MC our recognition program today. I wanted to briefly provide some background on RCE Saskatchewan's Education for Sustainable Development recognition program. Sustainable development seeks those pathways that simultaneously achieve important economic, social, environmental, and cultural outcomes that are the basis for ongoing improvements in quality of life and well-being for all. At the same time, these paths improve the health of our natural ecosystems upon which all life depends. Your projects that we are recognizing today are a testament to the possibility of these types of development. As a representative of RCE Saskatchewan, and as part of the global network of 175 RCEs acknowledged by the United Nations University in Tokyo, I congratulate you on the educational work you do that engages and improves our communities for both present and future generations. Even though we are meeting virtually today, we were to be having our celebration on the First Nations University of Canada Regina campus. I would like to acknowledge that this campus is situated on Treaty 4 territory, the original lands of the Cree, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. First Nations and Métis peoples play a central role in developing sustainable pathways for our province's future. And I want to especially thank First Nations University of Canada for its willingness to host us physically this year on their beautiful campus here in Regina. Hopefully you were able to enjoy some of the videos prior to our formal start today. First Nations University has been the central organizing partner in planning our event this year, and many of the features of today's event are due to the generous input of volunteer time and the thoughtful ideas from its members on our planning committee. The RCE recognition event is a complex event to host in person, so in moving it online due to COVID-19, we have added even further complexity. We are very thankful to the Faculty of Science at the University of Regina for generously providing its technical assistance to help us today. Moving to a virtual event has also meant that we are able to live stream today's ceremonies, making the event accessible not only here in Saskatchewan, but to our RCE colleagues in the Americas and around the world. This is our 12th recognition event, and we are delighted to have 17 projects to recognize today, despite all the turmoil at the time nominations were due at the end of March. I think you will see that the sustainability projects we are recognizing provide many key insights into the kind of educational, social, and technological strategies needed for us to be resilient as a species, especially in challenging times such as these. I would now like to invite Ms. Margaret Asmus to speak to you. Margaret is co-coordinator of RCE Saskatchewan and has played a central role in planning this event as its event coordinator. Margaret will provide a brief orientation to the Zoom platform we are using today.
Hello, everyone. I'm assuming everyone can hear me. And I will come on. Yes. I welcome everyone. This is an exciting event. It's been a little bit crazy getting this all together. And as you can well appreciate, this is the first time that we've done this, and it's a fairly new format for all of us. So there may be some glitches along the way, and we hope that you'll bear with us and have patience with that. I also noticed that there was a comment on the chat that the live stream doesn't seem to be functioning, but that may just be that the live stream, there's a bit of a delay. And we've alerted Jeremy to that, who is the technical person at the Faculty of Science. But I think it's just because there's a delay between the live broadcast and the live stream. I'm showing you a slide here that shows the bottom strip across the Zoom. Many of you may not have used Zoom before, and if you kind of hover the your mouse along the bottom strip, you'll see many of those icons. So I'm just going to clarify that we've got all of you, we have disabled your audio and your video, but we will enable it when you come up to speaking. And that way we don't have background interference, noise and that sort of thing. And there may sometimes be a little bit of a delay as I'm trying to locate you. So if you have, if you're worried about that, we will enable you at the right point. There's also a chat box. If you're having technical problems, please let us know by chat. Also, although I'm noticing from the participants that it doesn't seem to be a problem yet, if you are on your phone, so dialing in or logging in with a phone number, or are using a Zoom account or a Zoom name other than your own, please let me know so that I know how to enable you. If you're just a phone number, I may not know that you're Bob or whoever you are. So please let me know, although it doesn't seem to be a problem so far. And then also under reactions, that last icon, there's not a lot of opportunity for, you can clap your hands or you can be astonished, but if you feel inclined to share your feelings, even in a minor way, please feel free to do so. So I'm going to now turn it over back to Roger. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Margaret. With each recognition event, we experiment with new features appropriate to the context and community we are in. As we are in a virtual context this year, the RCE worked to commission a short 4-minute video to introduce you to the concept of an RCE and some of the work of RCE Saskatchewan. On very short notice, within the last 3 weeks, Lindsay Longstaff has done an exceptional job of conducting interviews, gathering video footage, and putting together texts and photographs, all edited with care, to produce the video you are about to see. Thank you, Lindsay, for all of this outstanding work that truly captures the global RCE movement and its contributions to education for sustainable development, both here in Saskatchewan and around the world. So we will now proceed with the premiere showing of our video.
If you think about investing, you invest something today, well, 50 years down the road, if there's an interest rate, you've made quite a bit of money. Similarly, from a sustainability perspective, if we've invested in terms of new livelihood practices today, even if they're just small adjustments, those small adjustments over 50 years or 100 years can be huge in terms of what their cumulative impacts are. We're talking about planning for the long-term future while meeting current needs. We all have a role to play in achieving sustainable development. The RCE is a regional center of expertise on education for sustainable development. The UN University calls the RCEs a global learning space. It's exactly what it is. It's learning to think globally with the Sustainable Development Goals, live locally and regionally by applying those goals to what they mean here. Bringing rural-urban together, bringing Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities together, bringing together the educators within our communities, so bringing not only the schools and the universities and the polytechnics, but bringing together the media. Part of it too is a kind of what we would call a capacity assessment, seeing what's already going on in Saskatchewan. If you're working on a project, chances are we can find somebody, they might be on the other side of the world, but they might be doing something quite similar.
When we do learn things, because we're linked through the UN system, it can go into academic research papers, it goes through and it goes into books published by the UN system, and it makes its voice heard at the UN level.
One of the things we do is an annual recognition event.
That energy is really good here.
We basically move to a new community typically every year, try primarily to have them in rural communities. And those are events where we have the Lieutenant Governor, who's our patron, present awards to typically between 20 and 25 projects each year.
We're really excited to be honored by the RCE. We meet about once a month and people bring their ideas to our meetings and we act on those initiatives. We have made such a bigger impact than we ever could as individuals. And I think that locally based action is one of the easier ways to try and tackle climate change, because it's really hard for me to think about what can I do on a federal level. But here in my community, there's all kinds of ways that I can contribute and the group can contribute.
I'm the program head for the Natural Resource Technology programs at Saskatchewan Polytechnic. We educate students, our next generation of resource managers that'll be in charge of sustainability for the following generations. When we had that event of recognition, I was surprised just how many like-minded individuals that we hadn't connected with before, all connected by that theme of sustainability.
The RCE has this wealth of knowledge that we can very quickly speak into various public policy processes and mobilize the information that's needed in order to make good decisions. And it's often even not the information. We mobilize the good questions. Each of these RCEs is a learning experiment. Each is a living laboratory.
Saskatchewan is one of our great success stories, really.
When you actually finally start tackling those problems, it's just so deeply satisfying.
It's about people talking to people.
Community is at the heart of sustainability.
An important part of our RCE recognition event is the participation of an elder at the start of our ceremonies. It is now my honor to invite First Nations University Regina Campus Elder Audrey Cochrane to bring a welcome to us today.
So they're gonna, now it's you.
Is that supposed to be your?
I am trying to get the video going for
Is your last name Rock Thunder?
Jeremy.
There you go. So now you can start the prayer.
Oh, I got to say a prayer?
Yeah.
Teka samanga kaki kitpanki. Kami ni kuan os majika kitu kuma kokoma. Kaki kinamu antog pinuchiak. Snape kanda kenta mot kinekeku. Jiminoya wat jiminuse wat. Ja kameni moachanta kenta mot kinekeku. Unyaonene ugi kenta muin. Anistas Gitti piskaa kun anuma. Unyaonene kagoda penankita kinan kandas tapakat pikitisimen pikutsikanoenta manke. Kinuento kitakinan kawinin unyaonene. Jiminus sewat paskemanko kaisawat. Kinomatiu kamekunk. Janda kenta muat. Uikonen ma Jiminus semakak. Kitmaati siunaan, opimaati siunaan muassako. Mutta pinuutsiimi vaan. Usse vaan, on niin chanssi vaan. Skuutene maakani vaan, kimissumsanaanik. Ukkuunmaanik, chaanis naapeek. Kistina ja akkosat maakeenga kaikki tuutta mua minoja uinsiajaat. Akkosi ukamikon kuvakaa akkosivaat. Apsimaansa ja uutti peesek. Tinoja maakani naan. Ibago es mune kia como dito con que no keep pitanto be con. Katamino ya que vin guys ya cosa da mansko putene na pine kuin. Kina ya tasmino set no como disse pouco senda. E com este que me on nissen cookie on can I go on is saki pakam ka can I go just pima ka. Jamino ni pinisen kuma ka ni snap yo. Ja kamene mo yang. Can I go work to do tamang. So in the young Timana city, Canary at Timina City, Sibuko Center. We quench me in Guano Sema. Gina and Agusian is means on the so Miss Geek. We are here. We mean the Guan, we march on Mount East Conican, and we mean the Guan, say much got he to more cock and snap. It doesn't know come into the man, and the Nakotam. Skit to one skagi to tomorrow cock, Miss Sandy Snappics of Kinawia. Then away market. But same time, no yawin. Kinawia caneta. Kakusu come kake, okay, gap, ni boy jakus, jakusun gap, Miss Semka. Once again, no, Miss Snap, Semani too. Can I get Gugati Semka? He waits the kids to one magic one. Now say good morning to everybody. I'm Archie Cochran Elder. Thank you for listening. Okay.
Thank you, Elder Cochrane, for your prayer and for setting us on such a good path for today. Thank you very much. RCE Saskatchewan is very pleased to have His Honor, the Honorable Russell Moraski, Lieutenant Governor of the Province of Saskatchewan, as patron of the RCE. His Honor has kindly sent along words of greetings that are included in the program for this year's ceremonies that I would like to draw your attention to. In addition, His Honor has prepared formal remarks for us today that we will now share with you.
Hello, everyone. I was looking forward to the RCE Sustainability Awards and to hearing about all the interesting projects. I'm sorry that we cannot meet in person, but I'm grateful to RCE and everyone participating for proceeding online. Thank you for being so adaptable during these challenging times. I believe that we all have a responsibility to contribute to our communities and that each person has something to contribute. Furthermore, we all need to be working towards sustainability. Our future and the future of our children and grandchildren is in our hands. Now is the time to consider how we can live in harmony with each other and with all the living things on this planet. I want to thank everyone whose projects are included in this year's event. Congratulations, and thank you for your innovative ideas and for joining RCE in their important work. Thank you for making sustainability a priority and for inspiring others through your creativity. You are improving our province and our world today and leaving remarkable legacies for the future. I'll close by bringing official greetings on behalf of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada. I'd also like to share these greetings in my first language, which is Woodland Cree. Elizabeth II, Canada,
I would like to thank His Honor for taking such a keen interest in sustainable development, the educational work of the RCE through this recognition event, and for his willingness to be our RCE's honorary patron at the start of his term. I would now like to introduce a number of special guests who we are very fortunate to have with us virtually today. The first is Dr. Charles or Chuck Hopkins, the UNESCO Chair in Reorienting Teacher Education for Sustainability at York University and a Global Advisor of the UN University for RCEs around the world. For those of you not familiar with UNESCO, UNESCO is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, We will hear from Chuck at the conclusion of the award ceremony. We also have with us today Dr. Barbara Young, Councillor of Ward 1 for the City of Regina, who in a short while will be providing a welcome message. A further guest is Dr. Maureen Reid, who, with Dr. James Robson, holds UNESCO chairs in Biocultural Diversity, Sustainability, Reconciliation and Renewal at the University of Saskatchewan. The University of Saskatchewan is in turn one of the founding institutional partners and core supporters of our RCE. We are very fortunate today to have Dr. Reid with us. I'm also very pleased that Dr. Bob Case, Interim President and Vice President Academic of First Nations University of Canada, is able to be with us today. Thank you so much for hosting our event this year. Before we proceed with these welcome messages, I would like to acknowledge this year's organizational sponsors, especially those with representatives in attendance with us this morning. The recognition program would not have been possible without their generous support. This year, we have a number of organizations to thank. I would first like to thank Sask Energy. Leslie Gosselin is with us today on behalf of Sask Energy, where she serves as Manager of Advertising and Community Relations. I would also like to acknowledge a longtime and generous supporter, the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of Saskatchewan, or APEGS for short. Drew Lockwood, President of APEGS, is with us today. Saskatchewan Polytechnic, who hosted our very successful event last year at Hannon Creek, is again a very generous supporter this year. We are very fortunate to have Dr. Larry Rosia, President and CEO of Sask Polytechnic, with us today. The University of Saskatchewan's Office of Sustainability is another important supporter and is represented by Matt Wolfsfeld from that office. Also, Luther College is a further longtime annual financial and in-kind supporter, and today we have Dr. Yvonne Petrie, Academic Dean, with us. We also have two further longtime and generous sponsors. The University of Regina President's Advisory Committee on Sustainability is represented by Jocelyn Krivia, who is with us here today, and also we've had generous funding from Campion College at the University of Regina. Thank you to all of our financial sponsors and for those who have been able to send representatives to be with us today. We will be hearing from our gold sponsors shortly. In addition to our financial sponsors, the recognition program has also relied on a host of individual volunteers. These include the members of our RCE Recognition Program Planning Committee. Bonnie Rock Thunder and Dr. Arzu Sardali from First Nations University of Canada, Kurt Schroeder from Saskatchewan Polytechnic, Matt Wolfsfeld from the University of Saskatchewan, Carissa Robb and Jocelyn Krivia from the University of Regina, and Jill Forrester with our RCE Communications Group are all part of that committee. Each has worked extensively on this event and deserve much thanks. Cindy Girl from Luther College has generously helped manage the funds for this year's event, and Jeremy Lag and Lee Ahmet from the Faculty of Science at the University of Regina are kindly providing technical support. Most especially, I would like to thank Margaret Asmus, our event coordinator for the ESD recognition program this year. Margaret has worked incredibly hard bringing this event together with all of its additional technical complexities at the last moment to put this into a virtual format. Thank you profoundly, Margaret, for all of your wonderful work leading up to and including this day. I will now invite several of our special guests and sponsors to bring greetings. I would like to begin by inviting Dr. Bob Casius, Interim President and Vice President Academic of First Nations University of Canada, for his welcoming remarks.
Good morning. Thank you for the introduction. I want to thank our elder, Audrey Cochran, for the prayer this morning. First of all, I'd like to also acknowledge and thank His Honorable Russ Marasti, the Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan, Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan, for his welcome and his words. We are honored to have him here today. To distinguished guest elders, the keynote speaker, Dr. Charles Hopkins, UNESCO Chair, award recipients, sponsors, and organizers, I welcome you to the 12th Annual Recognition Event for Education for Sustainable Development in Saskatchewan. These are unprecedented times, and many events have either been canceled or postponed. As a partner of the RCE Saskatchewan, our campus was set as the original location. However, we are happy the event has continued on a virtual platform. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that First Nations University of Canada Regina campus is situated on the Star Blanket Cree Nation Atimkamamikuuzit Reserve on Treaty 4 territory. The original lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and homeland of the Métis Nation. I want to acknowledge all the award recipients and extend my congratulations on your exceptional sustainability achievements of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. As an educational institution, First Nations University of Canada encourages development of improving health and education through climate change, amongst other ways, especially in the current pandemic situation we are in today. I'd also like to congratulate Dr. Arzu Sardali, Professor, Indigenous Knowledge and Science, and Ida Swan, Assistant Professor, Indigenous Education, and Mr. Willie Ermine, a member of our Elders Council, on the publication of Cree Dictionary of Mathematical Terms for Elementary Classes, as this year's recipient of the Lyle Banco Future Generations Award. Once again, thank you all for joining us today. My apologies for not being able to stay for the duration of the virtual ceremony. I hope that the university can accommodate the awards in the future. Thank you. Miigwech.
Thank you, Dr. Casius, for taking the time to prepare your message for us today and for your generously hosting this year's recognition event.
Thank you.
The Government of Saskatchewan has also brought formal greetings, and I would like to now read the welcome message from the Deputy Premier of the Province of Saskatchewan and Minister of Education, the Honourable Gordon Wyatt. On behalf of the Government of Saskatchewan, I am pleased to send greetings to everyone participating in the annual Education for Sustainable Development Recognition Event. While many of you are attending remotely, I would also like to recognize the First Nations University of Canada for hosting this event. During these challenging times, I regret that we are unable to celebrate this important event together in person, and I strongly support the Regional Centre of Expertise on Education for Sustainable Development organizers for making the difficult decision to hold the 12th Annual Recognition Awards as a virtual event. This choice will allow us to recognize the innovative achievements in education for sustainable development in a manner that protects the safety of Saskatchewan citizens. With this event, RCE Saskatchewan is recognizing individuals and organizations who promote active environmental stewardship and, through education, play an important role in identifying paths to sustainability. For the last several years, the Education for Sustainable Development Recognition Event has honored vital initiatives from visual artists, authors, and small business owners. The Government of Saskatchewan and the education sector in particular is grateful for the work RCE is doing to promote education for sustainable development in Saskatchewan. Together with RCE Saskatchewan, the Ministry of Education remains committed to educating the public on the importance of creating a sustainable life for our children and grandchildren. Congratulations on another successful year promoting education for sustainable development in Saskatchewan, and best wishes for a unique and memorable celebration. Thank you, Minister Wyatt, for these remarks. I should note that we are indebted to the province of Saskatchewan that provided the first seed funding for our RCE recognition event. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Barbara Young, City Councillor for Ward 1 from the City of Regina, to bring greetings on behalf of the city.
This is Margaret. Barbara doesn't seem to be here unless we have one identity.
Yes, I am.
Oh, are you iPad Pro?
Pardon?
Are you identified as iPad Pro?
Probably, yes.
Okay, good. All right. I will activate you then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Good morning.
I think I'm here.
Yes, you are. We can see you.
Thank you, Roger and Margaret. Well, good morning, everyone. And special greetings to Dr. Casius and Elder Audrey, and special guests and everyone who's going to participate in this. I think that we are going to be doing more and more of this as we go on. And I think it's important that we come together and that we see each other and that we hear each other. So I'm pleased to bring you greetings this morning from the City of Regina and my colleagues on City Council. We extend our congratulations to the award recipients for their important work in the field of sustainable development. And thank you to First Nations University of Canada for hosting this year's awards, and to the sponsors who've made this possible. As a city councillor, I have really positive memories of meetings and discussions with Lyle, Banco, and Garth Pickard as they introduced the idea of a regional center of expertise on education for sustainable development. And in those discussions, it was clear that their expertise, their leadership, and most of all, their passion for this work drew all of us into this important field of innovation. And it was a fit for the City of Regina as they were engaged in setting long-term priorities. Lyle's leadership was appreciated as he sat with members of administration and council on several occasions, sharing his expertise and his enthusiasm. So we could almost look at everything we do in the city under the umbrella of sustainability. And I'll share a few things this morning that we have going on right now. In 2018, Council unanimously passed a resolution with the goal of having operations and facilities and fleet 100% renewable by 2050. And there's much more underway. One project underway this year is the beginning of a 5-year plan to improve bike infrastructure, completing multi-use pathways and connections between pathways, and the start of a bike roadways project finally. Taken us a while to get to this one. So there are many other UN goal areas on our agenda as well, and I would bring homelessness to the fore. There's now a homelessness plan for this city, and we're working to bring 3 levels of government together to fund that plan. As you may know, the Reimagine Conference 2020 to support the development of the City of Regina's energy and sustainability framework was scheduled for next week, and the conference has been postponed now to September. It's designed to bring together municipal leaders, innovators, and sustainability experts to share their successes and explore and discuss current and emerging technologies. We hope you'll join us as the presenters share their work and ideas to implement innovative strategies toward sustainable infrastructure and renewable energy. Locally based action is an important part of this work as a city and as this province. We can learn from you. I would also like to just mention briefly that we give awards to our employees each year who have come up with innovative changes for our system. And I think that's an important thing to do to engage everyone within the city in this work. RCE Saskatchewan, we value the work you're doing and we value your leadership. This difficult time that the world is sharing has shown us what's important, how the environment and our families are keys to our health and happiness, and that working together is the key to solving problems from a pandemic to a more sustainable world. It was a pleasure to be with you this morning. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dr. Young, for your thoughtful words and longtime support for sustainability in the city, and also about your comments about Lyle and Garth Pickard. I really appreciate that. I would now like to invite Maureen Reid, UNESCO Chair at the University of Saskatchewan, to bring greetings and introduce a short video of her work.
Yeah.
Good morning.
So, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. First, I'd like to also echo the appreciation and thank you to all the hosts, the organizers, and the contributors to this particular event. And really perhaps underscore some of the things that have already been said, that RCE has really been important in terms of raising awareness of sustainability issues in the province. But I also see, I haven't come to every event, but I've come to some events over the years, and I see a real increase in commitment by organizations, by the cities, by our universities to sustainability, and in most recent years to the SDGs. And I think it's really exciting to be part of that. As Roger mentioned, I now hold, or co-hold, I guess, a UNESCO chair in biocultural diversity, sustainability, reconciliation, and renewal. It is a chair that's held with Dr. Jim Robson, and the reason why we share it is that it's a chair conferred by UNESCO that really focuses on developing North-South dialogue. So the video that we have will explain it, so I won't go into that in detail, but it is one of 27 chairs across Canada and many others internationally. And I guess the one thing that I underscore, I like to think about with respect to the work that I'm doing is that this particular chair under UNESCO is important to me personally because of UNESCO's model, which is making peace in the minds of men and women, so that as we move forward towards the goals of sustainability, as we think about, you know, environmental and social justice and well-being, I really like the underpinning of that in the context of making peace. And I think that that's really important, an important goal in terms of reconciliation with the natural environment, reconciliation between settler and Indigenous peoples, and reconciliation with one another. And I hope that we kind of hold on to that, that idea, I guess, in the post-COVID world as well. So I think that the video can speak for itself. And Margaret, if you're able to start the video, I'd be happy if you did that.
Humanity is facing a number of global sustainability challenges, whether that be climate change, the loss of biological diversity, the loss of Indigenous languages. The traditional territories of Indigenous peoples account for as much as 1/5 of the global landmass, and remarkably, perhaps as much as 4/5 of remaining terrestrial, that's land-based, biodiversity.
We need to find ways to address sustainability and conservation challenges holistically. Indigenous, non-Indigenous peoples and governments, researchers and NGOs have to find ways to work together and to learn from one another. Our UNESCO co-chair in biocultural diversity, sustainability, reconciliation and renewal fosters those relationships.
We brought together Indigenous community and academic partners from Canada, Mexico, Argentina and South Africa to launch the chair.
To hear from folks from other countries about the challenges they're having at their community level, the very real work of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, and how that can help us all achieve our vision of sustainable development is really insightful.
La relación que hay entre biodiversidad y la comunidad pues es todo, porque si hablamos de biodiversidad, estamos hablando de todo el territorio, que en este caso tiene mucho que ver con la función que ahorita estoy desempeñando.
It's been fun to hear what's going on in places like South Africa, Mexico, but also to have visited 3 reserves yesterday and just see the enthusiasm, the big heart, the generosity of the Cree people in those First Nations, the great things going on.
True reconciliation to our mind means working together in a renewed relationship that is collaboratively created and mutually beneficial. We see this as walking a pathway side by side rather than one behind the other. We hope that we are able to contribute to that ultimate goal, that is to build peace amongst ourselves and to build peace with the natural world that allows us to thrive.
Thank you, Maureen, for sharing such a wonderful video with us. I loved seeing all the scenes, especially the buffaloes. So I would now like to invite our gold sponsors to provide introductory remarks. I will begin by inviting Leslie Gosselin, Manager of Advertising and Community Relations with Sask Energy, to bring greetings. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm just not sure. Am I on? Because I've never done this Zoom thing before.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. And I've got messages coming up on my screen that I need to get rid of. Sorry. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity to offer greetings on behalf of Sask Energy, a sponsor once again for this very worthwhile achievement event. First of all, I'd just like to begin by thanking the organizers for persevering through these unprecedented times and finding a way to still celebrate sustainability success in our province this year. And I have to tell you, in the first half hour that I've been sitting here this morning and hearing about familiar people and seeing familiar faces, I already feel more connected than I have in the last few weeks. So thank you. This pandemic pause has certainly been an opportunity to reflect on how we interact with the world around us and with all the people that we love. And it's truly, I think, because I'm watching the news every day, it's united humanity around the globe like nothing that any of us have ever experienced. The remarkable and measurable difference to the environment throughout the world is also eye-opening and humbling for sure. Sask Energy serves hundreds of thousands of citizens and businesses across Saskatchewan, ensuring that natural gas is available, flowing safely and reliably just when our customers need it. And at times, this means that we're crossing natural spaces in our province, which we understand requires the utmost care in order to have the least impact possible on our environment. We take this responsibility very seriously, from our day-to-day work in the field to planning for the future and educating leaders of tomorrow. One of the best ways to do this is by supporting the efforts of organizations who are focused on changing attitudes and behaviors in our province, as well as undertaking important conservation work to protect our landscapes. And we have supported many organizations in this province and actually several that are on the list today who are going to be recognized. So that's pretty exciting for us to see. From the beginning, RCE Saskatchewan has celebrated how change at a regional, local, and individual level can indeed create a measurable difference. And just like Barbara, I remember lots of conversations with Lyle, Banco, and sitting and chatting with him. And just, it's so interesting to see how his seed of an idea has turned into an amazing vision and initiative that's lived on in Saskatchewan. At Sask Energy, we have no doubt that funding environmental education for youth will foster more understanding and commitment to environmental stewardship in the next generation, and hopefully inspire the future leaders of organizations like RCE Saskatchewan. Today, we are very honored to help recognize 16 deserving organizations, or I guess maybe 17, I might have counted wrong, who have met those very high sustainable education standards set by this United Nations initiative. And we're really excited to be part of that. And I'm looking forward to all the presentations just to hear about what they are exactly doing. So congratulations, everyone. Thank you to the university for hosting, and to all the special guests, and particularly to our elder today for the prayer. We wish you all continued success in the coming year, and that we may all be able to gather in person next year for the 2021 celebrations. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie, for the generous support of Sask Energy and the commitments of the ground sector that it's making to sustainable development. That's great. Next, I would like to invite Drew Lockwood, President of the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of Saskatchewan, to speak to us today.
Good morning, folks. Just let me get my video started.
Good morning.
That worked? Good morning. I'm sitting at home and everyone's working online, so this is fun to see. Warm welcome to everyone on behalf of the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of Saskatchewan. As noted, we're a very proud sponsor of the RCE Recognition Awards. APEX, as a regulator of the practice of professional engineering and geoscience in the province, society has given us the privilege to protect the public by ensuring those that are practiced are qualified, competent, and committed to the high standards of professional conduct. Now, most people know that we work, engineers and geoscientists work to keep people safe, but actually another core responsibility is that we have to the protection of the environment. So this is pretty cool to see. You see several of the recipients, and I look forward to hearing about them. Some of the Composit ones and the water ones that are tied to engineering and geoscience, and that they're getting recognition, obviously, from their peers and from the communities they serve. It's exciting to see that, and to know that we are, as much as we are economic, the engineers and geoscience, we also need to be, we're bastions of the environment to make sure that people have a sustainable future. So fantastic to see that you're able to pivot the format so quickly and provide acknowledgement to those folks that have worked so hard on behalf of the public. And it's really cool to see all the educational institutions, the grassroots, and everything like that. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and congratulations to all the award recipients, and look forward to hearing about it.
Great. Thank you, Drew, for all of APEC's support for RCE Saskatchewan over the years, and the commitment of your profession to advancing sustainability in the province.
Thanks.
Advancing education for sustainable development relies especially upon the formal education sector, and as such, I am pleased to invite Dr. Larry Rosia, President and CEO of Saskatchewan Polytechnic, to bring greetings this morning. Good morning.
Okay, good morning, Roger. Thank you for that introduction. I'm not sure if I'm on the screen or not, or on the video.
Yeah, we
I was following the. Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone. And I would like to also thank Elder Audrey for their prayers this morning. And Roger, I'd like to congratulate you, Margaret, and your team for the innovative way that you put this conference together in these crazy and unprecedented times, and still allow us to celebrate some of the accomplishments that are being, I guess, achieved in sustainability. I'd also like to congratulate Dr. Casius from FUN for hosting this year's conference. I know we had the privilege of hosting it last year. Great event, and I always look forward to these events. So Tawau Hawani Tenshi Atlanate. And I do want to recognize that Saskatchewan Polytechnic is located on Treaty 4 and Treaty 6 territories, and that we're situated on the ancestral lands of the Cree, the Saulteaux, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota peoples, and the traditional homeland of the Métis. And on behalf of all management, faculty, and staff at Saskatchewan Polytechnic, I want all of you to know how proud and excited we are to be a gold sponsor for this year's event. As each of us navigates this unprecedented period of disruption brought about by COVID-19 crisis, it's important to know the critical role that education plays in allowing us to build a more sustainable future for this generation and for all those that are going to follow. And as a polytechnic, Saskatchewan Polytechnic places great value in experiential learning and applied research opportunities for students. Such opportunities, we believe, allow them to become highly skilled and trained professionals once they graduate from our programs. Highly skilled and trained professionals who are not only able to meet the challenges they will face during periods of disruption, be it technological, the changing nature of work, and even environmental disruption, but also to seize opportunities that will allow, and I really believe there will be opportunities. So in closing, I want to congratulate everyone behind the innovative ideas that are being recognized today. And I commend each of you for what you're doing and accomplishing to make our province and ultimately our world more sustainable. Thank you, and I look forward to the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Dr. Rosia, and congratulations on the good work you are doing at Saskatchewan Polytechnic.
Thank you, Roger.
Lastly, I would like to mention greetings we have received from our fellow RCEs in the Americas, including RCE Greater Portland in Oregon and RCE Greater Burlington in Vermont, as well as from the United Nations University Global RCE Service Center in Tokyo. Thank you for also being with us virtually today. I would now like to draw your attention to today's program. In addition to the message from His Honor is a list of those projects receiving recognition. These projects were adjudicated by an independent panel of experts from the University of Regina, the University of Saskatchewan, and Saskatchewan Polytechnic, and are deemed to have made important achievements or milestones in advancing sustainable development, especially one or more of the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and having key educational components. These awards are non-monetary awards whose goal is to recognize and showcase education for sustainable development projects in our region. As such, we felt that today would be an important opportunity to allow representatives of projects recognized to have an opportunity to briefly speak about their projects, to allow others an opportunity also to get a taste of the excitement and possibility associated with each one, and to meet the people advancing them. In terms of the formal celebrations today, I will invite a representative from each project in the order of the projects as set out in the program. You can then speak for 3 minutes about the Education for Sustainable Development project you are representing. Margaret will advance the slides for you, but please say next if you are needing her to advance the slide. At 2.5 minutes, I will post a small clock in your participants window in Zoom. And at 3 minutes, Margaret will post a final slide showing your certificate. As we have representatives, I believe, for all of the 17 projects being recognized today, I will try to keep us on schedule. We are planning to have this portion completed within approximately an hour. We will then present the Lyle Banco Future Generations Award, awarded in honor of Lyle Banco, co-coordinator of RCE Saskatchewan, who passed away in February of 2016. We will then conclude with a keynote address from Dr. Charles Hopkins. So, following the order of awards set out in our program, it is now my pleasure to call upon the representative of our first project. This is Marissa Carmack, who will speak to the 2019 ECOM Conference, Action on Climate Change Through Education. So I guess if we could have Marissa video shown.
Hi there, it's actually Karen McIver here.
Oh, good morning, Karen.
Good morning. My name is Karen McIver. I'm a high school science teacher here in Regina, and I'm a past board member and member of Saskatchewan Outdoor and Environmental Education Association, or Sask Outdoors, which was one of the hosting partners of this event. I co-chaired the conference along with Dr. Marcia McKenzie, Leah Japp, and Nicola Chopin, and we are very honored to receive recognition today for our event. ECOM stands for the Canadian Network for Environmental Education and Communication, and we were submitted a proposal to host in Saskatchewan the 2019 conference because of a few important events that were coming up. One included Sask Outdoors' 50th birthday celebration. Some of our events included a pre-conference eco tour to Prince Albert National Park. We had hands-on workshops. We had a policy forum. We had one afternoon of the conference, which was all place-based field trips within the area surrounding Saskatoon. We had traditional sessions. We had a 50th birthday party for Sask Outdoors one evening, and we had the ECOM Awards night one evening. We had a total of 218 participants register, and we're really proud that this event was the first ever national conference with a theme, climate change education. So our theme was action on climate change through education, and we were very aware of choosing that title because we know that climate change is the most urgent issue facing global society, and that education and communication are central to motivating and enabling our collective capacity to act. We had 4 strands. We focused on pre-K to 12 education, community education, higher education, and Indigenous education. The conference hosts included ECOM, which is the national network, Sask Outdoors, which is the provincial specialist organization, the Sustainability Education Policy Network, and the Sustainability Education Research Institute from the University of Saskatchewan. And so with these 4 organizations, we were able to pull together a variety of sponsors to support us and to offer these amazing opportunities for the public. We had a field trip committee, including Sean Brandt, Scott Thompson, and Dr. Janik McVitie, who worked on all of the field trips before the conference occurred. I think we're good for our last slide. We just wanted to highlight our amazing keynote speakers that we were able to encourage to come to Saskatchewan to share with us information regarding action on climate change in education. So we had Ariel Deranger, we had Tim Swinehart, who came from Portland, Oregon, and actually did work with his city on and his class, his high school class, on changing local policy towards climate justice. We had Lori Adkin, who researches oil impacts on higher education. And we had Sylvia McAdam and Sheila McLean speaking about community education. Some of the things that our conference attendees spoke about is appreciating Indigenous culture in Saskatchewan, taking action now, making connections with other educators, and showing a sense of community inspiration to be change makers. All of this was connected to recent research, and we are very proud that we were able to build the tie between practicing teachers, the community, higher education, and Indigenous, all following an Indigenous lead.
Thank you, Karen. That was a fabulous overview of the conference, and I was able to attend, and it was an excellent conference. So thank you so much, and to your team.
Thank you so much.
Our next award recipient is the 2020 Green Vision for Saskatoon, and I would like to invite Julia Adamson and Robert White to speak to this project.
Hello. Yeah, Robert here. The Friends of the Saskatoon Forestation Area, or Friends for short, can we have the slide? Is focused on 2 regeneration areas, renaturalized areas on the west edge of Saskatoon. Here you see the railway chapel yards and Highway 7 going diagonally on. Then below the yards is the St. Barb Baker afforestation area, and kitty corner across Highway 7 is the George Genereux Park. Baker area is 326 acres, Genereux is 140 acres, so almost 500 acres total. The large west swale you see is a remnant of the Yorth Island glacial spillway that dissects the area, and that created this large marshy area with Chapel Marsh, the conservation area on the south end by Cedar Villa Road. The area above the chapel is slated for housing and commercial development, and the area below, down here below the Chapel Marsh, is for further development as well. So Baker, of course, was recognized by your organization last year, the book Man of the Trees, first global conservationist. And this is a tangible legacy of this world-renowned forester who prophetically warned and began acting over a century ago about the importance of trees and planting and protecting trees for survival. So you can advance to the next slide, please. This shows Baker here and one of his mottos, Green Survival, and 2 other, George Genereux, Olympian, and Mr. Chappell was also known as Chief Ironhurst, was a charismatic city builder. The Old Bone Trail also ran through the area. Next. This shows the geological history and the formation of the West Swale on this spillway. Unfortunately, these areas have long been neglected, resulting in illegal motorized vehicle entry and trash dumping. The Friends have organized trash cleanups in the Baker area and have pushed the city to have barriers to prevent entry and signage. However, there has been no funding available to protect the areas, and the Friends have formed to fill the gap. Julia Adamson is really the champion of this area and the project, and I switch to her next, and you can switch to the next slide.
Our Green Vision project involves citizen bioblitzes to develop a baseline inventory of species, interpretive signage, heritage tours, environmental events, student outdoor education, and guardian programs, a clean, green community scene trash cleanup for environmental protection, along with education and awareness regarding the rich heritage. Our vision is in keeping with the spirit of Wetaskiwin, living together on the land. Our planned group events are postponed, but all are welcome to join us virtually and watch our website for upcoming events. Individuals and families can still come out to the area. With iNaturalist loaded on your smartphone, you can help document the biodiversity. Thank you, Robert, and thank you to the RCE.
Thank you so much for that very exciting presentation and all that wonderful work you're doing. I would now like to go to the next project, the Agroclimate Impact Reporter, and I believe we have Dr. Ray Ambrosi with us this morning. So I would invite Ray to present to us, unless there's somebody else here for that project.
No, it's me here today.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Raymond Ambrosi, and I work with the National Agriculture Information Service at AAFC. Our team monitors and reports on weather and climate impacts to agriculture. We're honored today to accept this award for our AIR initiative and its contributions to agriculture and to the realization of SDGs here in Canada. Just I'll move to the next slide here. What is AIR? The Agroclimate Impact Reporter is an online survey for collecting, reporting, and understanding the agricultural impacts caused by severe weather and climate events. AIR employs a citizen science approach by relying on agricultural producers and concerned citizens across Canada to submit reports about on-the-ground impacts of severe weather. The survey runs during the agricultural growing season. While the majority of reports are done online, some people choose to report by telephone or by emailed PDFs. Why was AIR created? Severe weather events are becoming increasingly common and destructive in Canada. In 2018, Stats Canada reported that farm incomes decreased by 45%, partially owing to weather-related damage. While AAFC uses a variety of tools, including weather stations, satellites, and computer modeling data to understand agroclimate conditions, these methods alone cannot adequately describe the effects of weather impacts. Instead, we must rely on volunteer participation in AIR to provide information about on-the-ground conditions that affect agriculture. AIR has three primary goals. The first goal is to collect data to understand weather and climate impacts on farms. This allows us to ground truth weather station and satellite data, build a long-term record, and enhance AAFC's early warning systems. The second goal is to assess the severity and extent of impacts and estimate risk at regional and national levels. The third goal is to inform stakeholders of our findings. AAFC uses AIR data to create maps that display the reported weather and climate impacts. The maps are online for the public to use. Here are two examples of AIR maps. The map to the left shows surface soil moisture in Western Canada last October. The map to the right shows crop stage in Eastern Canada last July. AIR contributes to a number of the UN SDGs. We've distributed educational materials and held webinars on air and its importance to agriculture. AIR helps ensure that the agricultural sector and infrastructure is more resilient to the challenges of extreme weather. I'd like to thank RCE Saskatchewan for holding this event and for selecting AIR for an award. It is indeed an honor. Additionally, I'd like to thank the AIR team at NACE. And last but not least, our thanks to farmers and agricultural producers who submit monthly reports.
Thank you, Dr. Ambrosi, and I think this is a wonderful example of citizen science, so thank you for all of your good work.
Thank you.
The next group I'd like to invite is the Campus Waste Bin Exchange and Recycling Program, and I'd like to invite Vince Ignatiuk to speak to that.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Roger. I'm going to refrain from video because I'm out in the country and it is very iffy out here, so I'm going to try and hang on for my 3 minutes. First of all, I wanted to thank you, Roger, and to thank the RCE as well for this honor. As most projects, this was a team effort, and so I just want to have a couple thank yous first, as well as other projects. It has simple and humble beginnings. It all started with the Dean of the Faculty of Science, Dr. Doug Fairnick, saying, I need to find a place to put my yogurt container. And so while that I'm laughing as I say it, it's these small things that get sort of lots of big action happening. And so thank you to the Dean for that, as well as to Lee Ahmed, Mr. Lee Ahmed, the Faculty Administrator of Science as well. He sort of set us and a variety of people off just doing whatever we could to make this happen. The communications specialist, Mr. Jeremy Legui as well, the help and getting this out and showing having the pictures here that you see on the slide. So thank you to those guys in science. As well to the facilities management unit at the U of R. Like I said, it was a team effort, and so cross units as well as institutions, this project sort of flourished. A thank you to Carol Rada, John Papandreou, and co-op students as well, Tinsay and Noir. This really was basically a contact that we had from before with the U of C, so thank you to them. We wanted to find out, I know they're leaders as sustainability gurus, and therefore we contacted them just to get some information to start out. And lo and behold, due to some changes in laws from Calgary and what they wanted to move forward at the U of C, they were getting rid of some old bins and they offered them to us. So it was sort of a recycling of other recycling materials, and at a reduced cost, they came our way. So it really shows how institutions can work together to accomplish things. It's not just a competitive nature between everybody. It's working together to really be green, I guess. Ultimately, they came our way, and as you can see, there was sorting and transport from Calgary, and then there's the Dean there in action using the bins on campus, and they were placed in strategic locations based on what was felt that they would have the highest use and the best use. Ultimately, at the end, we're an institution of higher learning, and it's our job to be leaders and to teach best practices. So an appreciation to all the people involved. It was a team effort. And thank you to the RCE again. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince, for an exciting project, and great to see those around the University of Regina. So the next project is the design of a conceptual water distribution system, and I would now like to invite Kelvin Ng to speak to that project.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So thank you, Jeremy, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelvin Ng. I'm Professor of Faculty Engineering and Applied Science at the University of Regina. Now, the topic of my presentation is design of a conceptual water distribution system for the village of the Myth Park. I'm presenting the project on behalf of our environmental students, engineering students, Miles, Jack, Jay, and Samson. Now, the student team has selected the village of Myth Park as their study area. The town is relatively small with aging water distribution pipes. Universal access to clean water and sanitation is one of the 17 global goals for sustainable development. According to the Saskatchewan Water Security Agency and the Ministry of Environment, the water main of the village is old and deteriorated and should be replaced as soon as possible to minimize health risks to the residents. The goal of the project is to design 3 different water distribution systems by considering different aspects, which including the technical aspect, the economical aspect, the social, and the environmental aspect. Now, the whole idea of including multi-aspect is actually the idea from the team. The team want to make the decision as comprehensive as possible. The 3 designs are then compared to recommend the best system. Okay, thank you very much. Now, our student team has proposed 3 water distribution systems, as you can see from the table. We have the looped system, the bench system, and the combined system. Now, the combined system is simply a combination of the looped system and the bench system to take advantage of the both systems. Now, for all 3 different designs, it is very important to look at all of the proposed systems by the student team are able to provide sufficient water to all households and buildings. The decision matrix is shown at the upper right-hand side, upper left-hand side of the slide. So the technical aspect worth about half of the total score, about 50%, economical aspect worth about 35%, and environmental aspect and the social aspect worth about 10% and 5% respectively. If you look at the bottom row of the table, which highlighted in yellow, so the very last row of the table, the weighted rents are identical for both the looped and combined system with a score of about 1.95. Now, because the weighted rents are similar, the total rank is also considered by the student team. The total rank of the combined system is 7, less than the looped system. Therefore, the combined system is recommended. So, sorry about that. Can you go back to the previous one? Yeah, I just want to show you the design. Yeah, I just want to show you the design by the student team. So if you try to look at the lower left-hand side corner of the slide, you can see that the loop system is used for the commercial area and a bench system is used for the residential area. I apologize for maybe the figures is a little bit difficult, too small to see. So I apologize for that. So if we go to the very last slide, now this table actually shows you the specifications of the recommended system. The estimated pipe length is about 16,400 feet or about 5 km. The project cost is about $866,000, and the estimated surface lifespan of the combined system will be about 22 to about 30 years. Now, in conclusion, the student team has considered 4 different aspects: technical, economic, social, and environmental aspects to promote sustainability in engineering projects. We believe the project outcomes have helped to address the deteriorated water main issue and also the health issue of the rural areas that are often ignored. I hope you enjoyed this short presentation and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Kelvin. And it's great to see you working with small communities in Saskatchewan. I think there's a lot of innovation happening there.
Yeah, thank you.
I would now like to invite Shannon Zachitniak of the Enviro Collective Regina to speak to us next.
Hi there.
Good morning.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon Zachitniak, the founder and co-chair of Enviro Collective. First, I want to start by saying we're very honored to be recognized by the RCE. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about us, what we've done, and what we've got coming up. So first, you can see some ways to find out more about us and connect with us. And before we get started, I'm just going to give you a tiny bit of history that we started organically as in Regina as a grassroots response to the IPCC report in the fall of 2018, which underscored the importance of drastic emissions reductions by 2030 for any hope of mitigating runaway climate change. And we've been busy ever since. Next slide, please. Here are some photos of some of our activities. We co-organized the Regina Climate Strikes. We supported the carbon tax interveners with a press conference and live streaming of the case. This is the interveners on behalf of the federal government. We helped with a North Central garbage pickup. Next slide, please. We co-hosted a book launch and an eco-grief talking circle. And here you can see our election signs about climate action. We use these in the federal election and we'll be using them again in the provincial and municipal elections this year. Next slide, please. These last pictures are of a youth forum we co-hosted, our first birthday party, and a promotional poster of a media appearance. Recently, we incorporated as a nonprofit. We formed our first board of directors, and we created our mission and vision statements. Our mission is to build networks and share resources to support environmental and climate action. And our vision is a vibrant, educated, sustainable community. We also co-hosted our first fundraiser, and we are currently organizing a Regina Climate Club and compiling environmental education resources to support homeschooling parents, as well as tracking environmental policy changes as a result of COVID-19 for future advocacy efforts. And later this year, we'll be involved in advocating for climate action in both the provincial and municipal elections. And the last thing, my 5-year-old wants me to tell everyone that he is our biggest fan. He really wanted to make sure I told everyone that today. And I promised I would. So the last thing is just to tell you our website again, which is envirocollective.ca, and to thank you for your time and listening to our presentation today.
Thank you so much, Shannon. And also thank you so much for being willing to be part of the RCE video. That was also very generous of you.
Thank you.
I would now like to invite Margaret Asmus to speak to the Low Carbon Stories of Saskatchewan project.
Well, here I am, but I can't figure out how to get my video going. So I'll just start. Okay, I've got it now. I think I'm trying to do too many things here. So I was involved with a project with the Saskatchewan Environmental Society called the Low Carbon Stories, Saskatchewan Low Carbon Stories. And essentially, what we were looking at is we recognized that in Saskatchewan there was a very significant divide between rural and urban Saskatchewan around the conversation around climate change. And I think that divide is created by fear on both sides. On one side, there's a fear of climate change. On the other hand, there's a real legitimate fear about how action on climate change can change the rural way of life. And there is actually a lot of middle ground, but unfortunately that middle ground isn't being talked to. The two polar opposite positions are being entrenched, but we're not talking about the middle ground. And we decided that what we wanted to do was to create an opportunity for us to speak to the middle ground, to the opportunities between the two polar sides or the two extremes of fear in the conversation about climate change in Saskatchewan. So we wanted to move the conversation away from the threat of climate change towards the opportunities that greenhouse gas reduction can present. And we based the project on storytelling. The reality is that facts are not always what changes people. And we've learned this over the last 50 years. I mean, we've been telling people the facts about climate change, but there's a disjoint between the facts and the choices that people make. And we felt that storytelling was a better way to engage people because it tells people stories about other people with whom they can identify, and their stories that are of relevance to them. Personal success stories, you share identity with those people, lifestyles and concerns, and oh, look what he's doing or she's doing. Maybe that can help in my case. We featured 5 stories. One was Kaylane Kennels, the northern village of Green Lake, Nipawin Bible College, and 2 family farms, the Axton family farm, McCreary Land and Livestock. So they're really based on small business, community organizations, and farmers. Some of the stories featured switches to renewables. The farm stories really featured different ways of doing agriculture. And you can find all of these stories on our website, some in video, some in written form. And so the success of the project is we had the goal of doing 12 projects. We did 8 of them, but then 5 got postponed due to COVID-19, and they're all being rescheduled as virtual presentations. We have 5 written case studies and 3 videos, and we're working on an additional project. We had high social media, and we also had some lesson plans that were developed and shared with 1,000 teachers. So that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
I couldn't time and do my presentation at the same time, so I was a little bit scattered. I apologize.
It's a great project. I'd now like to invite Yvonne Harrison, Dr. Yvonne Harrison, to speak to the Nonprofit and Voluntary Sector Studies Network at Luther College.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Roger, and congratulations to all the recipients. The Nonprofit and Voluntary Sector Studies Network is a nonprofit management and leadership education program at Luther College at the University of Regina. And its mission really is to prepare students and those who work in the nonprofit and voluntary sector for careers and impactful leadership that sustain the nonprofit and voluntary sector, which is quite diverse, from large not-for-profits to very small community-based organizations that many of you are organizing. And we do this through 3 goals, and there are 3 pillars of the program. And one is education, really to provide high-quality, community-engaged education that is accessible, affordable, and relevant to both students and communities. And second goal or pillar is research around the production or the co-production of community engaged research that is also relevant, accessible, usable, and mutually beneficial to both the community and the university working to develop new knowledge. And finally, to create spaces where universities and communities can come together to determine what those needs are and to share resources and incubate ways in kind of transdisciplinary ways. And, you know, what's kind of unique about this is we've taken education that can be quite formal and bridged it into what is often difficult to do around informal ways, and those are applied learnings. And we use different methods around team-based learning, around collaboration, around a lot of educating, because that's how the sector governs and conducts its work, but also in applied ways where the knowledge that is co-produced can be applied in order to resolve real world challenges. I appreciated at the beginning hearing Roger talk about sustainability as a long-term investment. And I would see this program in much the same way, that over time, its immediate impacts may not be measurable, but over time, they're going to add up into sustaining, so indirectly, university education sustaining and having direct impacts on organizationally and in society in need. And especially at a time of COVID-19, I'll point out that our program is all online. It can be accessed anywhere by anyone, and yet still these impacts still apply, and the way we teach and learn doesn't change. So thank you very much. We're honored to accept this award. I accept it on behalf of Luther College. And thank you, Roger, for all that you do to really rally us and get us motivated and get us thinking about sustainability in these ways.
Thank you, Yvonne. You're a great colleague at Luther, and thank you for all of your work. So,
thank you.
I would now like to invite our next group. The project is the reclamation of stormwater collected from the University of Regina campus. And to speak to that is Estefania Vilela. I will invite her to speak.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stefania, and it's truly a pleasure to be nominated for this award and to be sharing with you this project that was done as part of the conclusion of our environmental engineering degree. The other group members are Lawrence, Alec, and Hallie, and our project supervisor is Stephanie Young, who played a major role for this achievement. Next slide, please. So this poster summarizes all the information we collected for this project. The design objective is to turn the University of Regina into a more sustainable campus by directly reducing our freshwater consumption, substituted with treated stormwater, keeping in mind an average cost of about $76,000 per year towards irrigation. So the goal is to reclaim the stormwater and snow runoff that is being collected and currently being discharged onto Wascana Lake. We listed 3 design options under methodology and analyzed them using a decision-making matrix, as you can see on the bottom of the poster. With that tool, we found that design number 1 achieved the highest rating, and that selected design would connect to the existing underground stormwater system at the university. The design will have a catch basin screening to reduce the total suspended solids, oils, and organic compounds in the stormwater. Then it will go to an open pond, which will serve as an equalization basin. It will be aerated and carry 90,000 cubic meters of water. And then this water will be screened again before it goes to rapid sand filtration to improve water quality. The UV disinfection will be used to deactivate the microorganisms before it gets stored onto the storage tank underground. Treatment will be connected to the irrigation system at the university and will be prompted to start treating water as the water level in the tank starts to decrease. So the total cost with the collection and reclamation were estimated at $611,000. Therefore, the payback period was estimated at 8 years, making it a feasible design with a small environmental impact. Next, yeah. Can you play the video? If it plays.
I'm afraid I can't play the video because of technical constraints. We had to turn the presentation into PDFs. So
I see.
Okay.
So this video would show you how the project would look in the campus, but the pictures on the side will also show you. You see the open pond, the building in which the rapid sand filtration will be located, and then the underground tank. This tank will be connected to the current irrigation system at the university. Next slide, please. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact any one of us. Our emails are listed below. We would love to clarify or give further insight on our design. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this project. I think the prairies are a perfect place to store water. Currently, we're draining a lot of water and not really storing it. So
yeah,
I think in climate change, your project really makes a difference. So
yeah, it's all currently being discharged to the Wascana Lake, so we can use it.
Yeah, we can use it. Good. Thank you so much. Our next project is the recycled plastics as composite structural material. And I'd like to invite Ramon Ricafort to speak to us on that project.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Ramon Ricafort, faculty member of the School of Mining, Energy, and Manufacturing of Saskatchewan Polytechnic College, Moose Jaw campus. Today, I'll be presenting a research project entitled Recycled PET as Composite Structural Material. This project supported by the Office of Applied Science, Research and Innovation of Sask Polytech. Okay, a study conducted by University of Toronto as little as 50% of water bottles are recycled, meaning the rest ends up in landfill. This translates up to 65% water bottles end up in landfills every year. Once in landfill, it will take 50 to 1,000 years to decompose. According to the most recent municipal solid waste report from the EPA, most of what is recovered consists of PET and HDPE plastics, as they clearly dominate the plastic recyclable market. So what we can do to help? Okay, to respond to the call of the government in reducing the generation and mismanaged disposal of plastic waste, thermoplastics, especially PET, will be recycled, presented by the primary recycling due to their simplicity and low cost. Instead of the traditional way of recycling plastics back to its original product, this project focuses on strengthening the mechanical properties by experimenting with an additive like calcium carbonate and stearic acid as fillers. This will be presented here to cover the first phase of the study. One thing good about the thermoplastics material is that it can be softened on heating and hardens when cooled, since these are made up of linear molecular chains. Okay, mechanical recycling refers to the operations that aim to recover plastic waste via mechanical processes like grinding, washing, separating, drying, regranulating, and compounding, as shown on the right of your screen. For mechanical recycling, only thermoplastics materials of interest, like polymeric materials that may be remelted and reprocessed into different shapes via techniques such as injection molding or extrusion. For this study, a dog bone shaped mold was used. Next slide, please. So the results are encouraging. Additives were added per batch and varied by weight content, like 5%, 8%, 10%, and 15%, with a positive result as shown on the graph on your right screen. Okay, each dog bone specimen were subjected to a tensile test by using a UTM, or Universal Testing Machine, and according to ASTM D638. Results were plotted and fitted with a 0.99 R-squared value. And with this data, we can also determine other mechanical properties like tensile modulus can also be found. So what's next for this project? Since this is only the first phase, other areas of interest would be, one, the study about mixing with other type of polymeric materials. This could be a major hurdle since different polymers are generally non-miscible or compatible with each other. This can lead to inferior mechanical properties. Number two, the study about the resilience from the process of repetitive recycling. Okay, this disadvantage of this process is represented by the existence of a limit on the number of cycles for each material. Three, to determine the other mechanical properties like thermal, flexural stresses, compression stresses, etc., etc. And lastly, most of all, put this on real applications. So I would like to thank for this award, and thank you, RCE.
Thank you so much, Ramon. And it's great to see that you've got a process of innovation going, and it'll be exciting to hear what comes next. So
thank you very much.
I would now like to invite Chet Neufeld to speak to the Saskatchewan Master Naturalist Program.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much to the organizers and the sponsors of this RCE Awards event. I'd like to thank you for this award, and congratulations to all the other winners of this award as well. Just a little bit about the Native Plant Society before we begin. We are a provincial organization. I'm located on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis in Saskatoon, but we operate provincially on all of the traditional territories. We are a member-based and nature-based organization. We've got members across the province and in neighboring provinces and states. And it's our 25th anniversary. So we've been around for a while, and we're in a partying mood this year for our 25th anniversary. We just had our AGM, luckily before the COVID crisis hit, at the just in February, at the Connect Arts Center in Regina. And we actually debuted one of our Master Naturalist program modules there. We debuted the Aquatic Ecosystems module there. So everybody who took it was very lucky, because we're not able to have those in-person workshops right now. So a little bit about the Master Naturalist program. This all started a few years ago, and I was getting kind of two sides of a coin, and I thought, oh, I bet I can put a project to get this together. And as it turns out, it wasn't a novel thought on my part, because I did some research, and Ontario had a Master Naturalist program, and enough states down in the US had a Master Naturalist program. So I could just reach out to them to reinvent the wheel. And really, both sides of the coin were, we have great conservation-based projects going on around the province that need volunteers, and there are a lot of people who are interested and have the time and abilities to help out, but they don't always know who to turn to or where to turn to help out. And sometimes they're missing skills that would give them better capacity to help out with certain more technical conservation-based projects, which these NGOs, largely they're NGOs that are putting these projects on, really, really need. They would love to have skilled citizen scientists to help out. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to create an army of citizen scientists that can help out with conservation projects around the province. So it's kind of a win-win. Our learning modules that have been developed so far are citizen science, urban ecosystems. Oh, can you go back to the first slide? Yeah, and prairie ecosystems. We just debuted the aquatic ecosystems and are in the process of developing forest ecosystems and ecological engagement. Okay, next slide. So they are both classroom-based and field-based. We like to have the classroom first so we can give them the theory, and then we, as you can see on the right side of that slide, that's a sample schedule. So we start out, we really incorporate Indigenous knowledge. So we have an elder, Joseph Ditauhau. He comes and gives us guidance on that portion. And then we have a bunch of different perspectives from scientists. In this case, there were ranchers, Janet McVitie, some of you may be familiar with her. She's a professor at the College of Education at the U of S. We have all of these different things. We have interactive games, and then we take all of what we learned and put it to use out on a field-based project somewhere around Saskatchewan, and it's just been great. This was another one of our classroom-based workshops at Wanuskewin, and then we went out and helped Wanuskewin collect some data on the land. So the participants learned a lot. Wanuskewin got a data set, and it's just been fantastic. So we hope to continue this into the future. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Jen. It looks like a fantastic learning experience, and again, the value of citizen science, connecting with NGOs, two themes we've seen today. So the next project is Stand Up for the Little Guy, and I'd like to invite Cristina Mcgraw to speak to that, and possibly Leslie. I'm not sure if you're speaking to that too, but
yes, yes.
Hi there.
Hi.
Good morning.
Okay, I'll go ahead. So my name is Cristina Mcgraw. I'm the Senior Development Manager at Landowners. In case you haven't heard of us, we are the Kids Conservation Organization. We're dedicated to educating children and their views about biodiversity, inspiring them to enable behaviors at home, and empowering them to become involved in protecting animals and their habitats. So we have about 9,000 members across Saskatchewan. We're very honored today to accept this award for a special campaign we did in honor of Earth Month, which is called Stand Up for the Little Guy. The campaign was developed with generous support from Sask Energy, and they helped to make this one of our best Earth Month campaigns ever. So we're excited to tell you about it. Go to the next slide, please. So the concept of this campaign was to introduce our young members to some of the smaller creatures that inhabit Saskatchewan's prairie grasslands, who may not receive a lot of attention for public conservation as some of the larger, more charismatic species. So the campaign focused on black-tailed prairie dogs, burrowing owls, the Ord's kangaroo rat, the swift fox, and the loggerhead shrike. So kids could learn about each species, about the crucial role that they play in the ecosystem, and then about some of the important work that on-the-ground conservation organizations are doing to protect them in one of the most endangered ecosystems in the country. Next slide, please. So through our extensive reach to more than 200,000 members across the country, we engage children, families, in learning the projects through our membership communications. We did an email campaign to parents. We did a lot of engagement on social media. And then through our in-school presence in schools throughout Saskatchewan and Canada, we deliver our live school assemblies. So in 2019, we reached approximately 6,000 students across Saskatchewan, telling them about the initiative and how they could participate by hosting their own fundraisers to raise funds and awareness for these species. Right, please. So as a result of this campaign, we were able to contribute a total of $75,000 to 3 on-the-ground organizations working to protect our stand-up little guy species. So they were Nature Saskatchewan for Operation Burrowing Owl, South of the Divide Conservation Action Program for their work controlling invasive species in Cypress Hills Interprovincial Park, and Nature Conservancy Canada for a land management initiative on Mackenzie Ranch in Alberta. So kids participated in raising funds for these projects through their own creative initiatives, bake sales, walkathons, craft sales, etc. And those that did get involved received updates about each of these projects, so they knew exactly what was done with the funds they raised, just closing the loop and providing assurance to them that their actions made a real and tangible difference for these species in the prairies. Next slide, please. So following the success of this program, we've also renewed our partnership with Sask Energy this year to do more great work educating Canada's kids about important prairie species in Saskatchewan. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Leslie Goslin at Sask Energy to talk about that.
We just wanted to have a chance to say that we believe that Earth Rangers has done an amazing job of, I think, responding. They first came to Sask Energy looking for sponsorship to do school presentations, and over a lunch conversation, we talked about doing a campaign that people in Saskatchewan could relate to, and that's really where this National Earth Month campaign came from. And it seems like the kids really responded to the Stand Up for the Little Guy theme. We were so impressed that we've actually multiplied by 2.5 times the amount of money we provided for Earth Rangers to keep going. And we've been a little bit interrupted by the pandemic this year for school programming, but they've really expanded what's going on online, and we'll pick up when we can going into the schools. So people all across Saskatchewan and in the schools will have a chance to see information about this Western Bumblebee project. So thank you to Earth Rangers for doing a great job.
Yes, thank you both. It's an exciting project and an exciting partnership.
Yeah.
The next project we are going to look at is Stewards of Saskatchewan Engaging Rural Landowners. And I'd like to invite Caitlin Burrows to speak to us on that project.
Morning, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. And really pleased to be accepting the award this morning. Next slide. So the Stewards of Saskatchewan project engages landowners and land managers in conserving habitat for the species at risk through one-on-one farm visits and through education and awareness programs. So the Stewards of Saskatchewan project consists of 5 programs as a whole. Operation Burrowing Owl, which is aimed at conserving the endangered burrowing owl. Rare Plant Rescue, which is aimed at conserving plant species at risk. Shrubs for Shrikes, which is aimed at conserving the threatened loggerhead shrike. Plovers on Shore, which is aimed at conserving the endangered piping plover. And then our newest program is the Stewards of Saskatchewan Banner program, which includes all other species at risk that are not already targeted by those other programs. And the 4 main goals of the project are habitat conservation, habitat enhancement, population monitoring, and education and awareness. Next slide. One of the most important and rewarding aspects of the project are the one-on-one farm visits with Saskatchewan farmers and ranchers. And during these on-site visits, staff and landowners are able to meet face-to-face to discuss and learn about the stewardship programs and species at risk. Landowners are provided with a toolkit of printed materials, which serve as a reliable source of educational information about species at risk, their habitat requirements, threats, beneficial management practices, and conservation. And through increased awareness, landowners will be better equipped to reduce or eliminate threats to the species on their land. We also use a wide variety of other educational resources to emphasize our message, including published articles, brochures, fact sheets, ID guides. We have children's coloring books. We also produce an annual newsletter and a species at risk calendar. And in addition to printed materials, we submit several news releases, participate in radio and television interviews, and attend and deliver presentations throughout southern and central Saskatchewan. We also host several conservation awareness events throughout southern and central Saskatchewan every year. And these events feature a free locally catered dinner and include presentations on the Stewards of Saskatchewan project and on other conservation initiatives and research that's available through our partner agencies. And all local stewards are invited to attend, and all other interested landowners and community members. The Stewards of Saskatchewan project really strives to focus on increasing awareness and understanding of sustainable agriculture by educating land managers and landowners about practices that maintain intact native grasslands and functional prairie ecologies. The project contributes to the community understanding of sustainability by working towards the development of social and ecological health in rural Saskatchewan communities. Our education and awareness activities build knowledge about species at risk for a broad range of audiences, and these educational programs help develop and expand their understanding of native prairie ecology and steps that they can take to make small changes to their existing land management plans that will benefit the habitat for species at risk that's living on their land. Delivery of our programs results in greater engagement in stewardship activities and a way for landowners to take action to improve habitat and reduce loss of biodiversity and an increased compassion for the plight of prairie species at risk in Saskatchewan. Again, thank you on behalf of Nature Saskatchewan and the team that makes this project a success. We're so appreciative of the recognition from RCE for our education work. I hope everyone is well and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. And I think your project really shows the breadth of education that's involved in education for sustainable development. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next project is the triple bottom line of the City of Saskatoon, and I'd like to invite Shannon Dick to speak to that.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with all of you, even if only in digital form. So jumping right in, on January 1st, the City of Saskatoon adopted a triple bottom line council policy that requires employees to apply a sustainability lens when planning, implementing, and reporting on initiatives. And it's based off the principles of environmental health and integrity, social equity and cultural well-being, economic benefits, and good governance. Of course, it's challenging to drive change with simply a policy on its own. So a decision-making tool and other capacity building initiatives and educational initiatives were developed to assist employees and to provide a more comprehensive and transparent way of integrating sustainability into our work. Next slide. So here's what the tool looks like. Not very fancy, a spreadsheet, but it functions similarly to a scored evaluation matrix where values are assigned based on how employees fill it out. And there's a drop-down menu where you can select how your initiative impacts a series of sustainability success measures. And you can also use the tool to compare different approaches or options. So in this demo, there's one column showing the triple bottom line implications of a business as usual approach, and another column to evaluate an alternative to that approach. And you can see on the right that the alternative, or option A, is achieving more beneficial triple bottom line outcomes than continuing with business as usual. And it comes up with a resulting score, and it's not really meant to grade an initiative. It's more so there to guide learning and decision making. So the results are meant to prompt employees to think through the triple bottom line implications of their initiatives, identify the strengths and weaknesses of their approach, highlight opportunities for improvement, and prompt changes wherever possible to align initiatives more strongly with the city's triple bottom line indicators. Next slide. And the tool has already been used to inform approximately 30 city initiatives. For example, it was used to describe how building a new central library to LEED standards would achieve more triple bottom line outcomes than maintaining the existing library. It's also been used to review sector plans and neighborhood concept plans. And it was also used to describe the differences between running water infrastructure over or under the river. And that project group identified that if they were to run it over the river, it could be built and repaired with less disruption to the river, as well as paired with an active transportation bridge. Next slide. So that's just a quick summary. By applying this approach, we hope to improve the quality of our decision making, and as a result, improve the quality of our work. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Shannon. And it's great to see the different lines of questioning that a good tool like that uses. I always think of the Sustainable Development Goals as the 17 great questions to ask. So anyway, thank you so much for that initiative. I would now like to invite Colleen Strode to speak to the UN Sustainable Development Goals staircase at Luther College.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me today, and just want to thank again the RCE for selecting the Luther College Student Association for this award. I'm the manager of recruitment at Luther College, and our Students Association isn't active right now in the spring semester, so I'm here on their behalf to present a little bit about our Sustainable Development Staircase at Luther College at the University of Regina. You can switch to the next slide. First of all, I want to thank, of course, Roger for all of his efforts and for always motivating and inspiring us. And of course, because of the role that Luther College and the University of Regina have are playing, having been selected by the International Association of Universities as a global lead on Sustainable Development Goal number 12, responsible consumption and production. We thought it would be important to highlight the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals on our campus, just to serve as a reminder to students, faculty, and staff who are frequenting the Luther College building and walking around our campus about all of our commitment to those goals. So this staircase is in honor of that commitment and of course of Roger's good work with the University of Regina on that goal number 12. A couple things just as I've been listening to everyone's presentation that stood out to me that really kind of speak to this project is just that community is really the heart of sustainability. And I think that was one of the main goals of this staircase installation, because it is our community as we're walking the halls, working, studying, just going about our lives together and having this reminder in our daily lives about the importance of the goals and the collaborative effort towards achieving the goals, as well as just at the university, on the University of Regina campus, being leaders in education and demonstrating best practices and just, again, keeping those goals at the forefront of our minds, I think is part of recognizing the critical role that education plays. And that was another big motivator behind the installation of this staircase. And great that a student association kind of took the lead and set that example for other students on our campus. You can go to the next slide, thanks. So again, just covering what the staircase represents, the daily reminder of the goals. And one important factor is that in addition to the educational component that the staircase provided on our campus community, is that it just provided that aesthetic touch to the staircase. And just from having people frequent our halls and see the staircase, we also learned that it serves as a benefit to those who are visually impaired who are trying to navigate the staircase. Just having the different colors that are marking each stair helps people navigate that. And Roger pointed out that that's what sustainability is all about, is hitting multiple goals at once. So in addition to education, we're helping serve people who are visually impaired, which was not necessarily an intended benefit, but just part of, I think, touching on variety of different areas within the project. So you can go to the next slide. And finally, just to provide that educational component, we hosted a reception for the campus community to go over the 17 goals, as well as our role within those 17 goals. So it was, again, a chance to come together, motivate each other, remind ourselves, much like we're doing today in this event, about our individual and collective responsibility in working towards the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So it created some great conversation. And thanks again for having us. I'm humbled to be among the group of amazing presenters and projects today. And I'm happy to be here to represent the Luther College Students Association.
Thank you, Colleen, so much, and for all of your efforts in organizing that reception and helping the Students Association with that project. The next group, it's from the University of Saskatchewan Graduation Powwow Waste Reduction Initiative, and I'd like to invite Matt Wolsfeld to speak to that project.
Hi there. So my name is Matt Wolsfeld. I'm with the University of Saskatchewan Office of Sustainability. For anybody who hasn't been to the University of Saskatchewan's Graduation Powwow, it's one of the most exciting events that we host every single year. In addition to all students, staff, and faculty at the university who are invited to attend, we invite in thousands of students from the surrounding school systems, as well as from First Nations communities from around the province to come and join us in a celebration of Indigenous achievement and all of our graduates who have gone through our programs. Next. So I've been a member on the powwow organizing committee for a number of years now, since I joined the university, I believe. And The organizing committee has always made a distinct effort to integrate sustainability into its offerings. Sustainability and indigenization groups on campus have a close kinship because we recognize that they both go hand in hand. A lot of sustainability concepts are inherent to Indigenous concepts and vice versa. And so we've tried to make the powwow as emblematic of sustainability initiatives as possible as we can. The best way that we find we can usually do that is through waste reduction, by bringing thousands of people onto campus for one event. We get a lot of people onto campus generating a lot of waste that otherwise wouldn't be there. And a lot of people coming from communities that don't necessarily have the same system that the university has, or who are maybe not as familiar with the recycling, waste, and composting systems that we can offer at the powwow. So in addition to helping to reduce that waste and manage that waste on the day of, our group also has to offer some help in educating the public about proper waste reduction on the day of. Each year, as part of the participation on the organizing committee, we take the lessons that we've learned from the previous years and build upon them to make a better and better powwow each year. Next. So kind of the steps that we've looked at to really integrate a good waste reduction lens and education lens into the powwow. First, we work with the organizing committee to assess the event site and ensure proper coverage for all of our different waste receptacles. We historically have held the powwow in the bowl at the university campus in Saskatoon, so we've had to manage for a lot of outdoor factors. We've also held it in the physical activity complex, our large gymnasium complex. Last year was our first time holding it in Merlis Belcher Place, the new ice hockey rink. And as far as I know, we'll be doing that for all the years to come as well. So we've had to adjust to a lot of different scenarios over our time there. We get a lot of volunteers at the powwow and break them into all the different groups that the powwow requires. So the sustainability volunteers are placed at the different waste receptacles around the building, and they directly engage with visitors as they come to help them sort and learn about their waste. So they take a look at what they have. They say, I see you have this, that'll go here, this will go here. Did you know this about this recycling material, etc. All of the signage that we put on the bins, we customize for the powwow. So as you can see on those example signages on the right there, we have the university's Indigenous icons integrated into the powwow as well as specific priority numbers. We don't usually feature specific items on our recycling signage around campus to keep it a little more general for the wide variety of materials we deal with. But the compost has a lot of pretty specific items that we get a lot of. So we want to make it really, really easy for visitors who are maybe not as familiar to be able to deal with their waste. At the end of the day, we collect all of the waste and we weigh it to assess the total impact that it had on the powwow. And so we can see how much it maybe changed compared to previous years. If there's any particularly troublesome materials or anything like that, we can start to work that into the organizing capability. For example, with so many elementary school students coming, we've generally had a lot of problems with school lunches and uneaten fruits, vegetables, plastic bags and sandwich bags and things like that. So we put in extra communications to our schools who are visiting to the powwow to consider that when they tell their students. So thank you very much for the award, and we look forward to continuing our great work on this year after year.
Thank you, Matt. That's great to see how you're customizing the education to the students attending. So we're now completed all but one of our awards, and it is now my pleasure to move on in our program to the presentation of the Future Generations Award, awarded in memory of Lyle Banco. As many of you are aware, Lyle Banco, co-coordinator of RCE Saskatchewan, passed away in February of 2016. Lyle was part of the RCE community since its very beginning, having helped lead the creation of RCE Saskatchewan starting in the summer of 2005. Lyle was a terrific friend, colleague, and mentor, and I just want to say how pleased Lyle would have been to see our recognition event being fully accessible in an online format. I recall fondly Lyle virtually toasting us from his patio in Regina at our RCE of the Americas meeting in 2015 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We established the Lyle Banco Future Generations Award in Lyle's honor as an award granted to individuals or groups in the K-12 educational system for their outstanding contributions to education for sustainable development in Saskatchewan. I would now like to invite Ms. Lori Parks of the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of Saskatchewan to present the Lyle Banco Future Generations Award to this year's worthy recipient.
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. I'm just fiddling with Zoom. Oh, is working right now. There I am. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm Lori Parks, a volunteer member of APEG's Environment and Sustainability Committee. And on behalf of APEG's, I'm very happy to be presenting the Future Generations Award in honor of Lyle Banco. This award recognizes a K-12 project that demonstrates an outstanding contribution to education for sustainable development in Saskatchewan. The award was created by RCE Saskatchewan in grateful recognition of Lyle Banco, who passed away in February of 2016. Lyle was a founding co-coordinator of the RCE, was passionate about leaving future generations a more sustainable world, and was an inspiration to many in the field of education. This year's award is being presented to the First Nations University of Canada for their project to develop a Cree dictionary of mathematical terms for elementary classes. This project aims to build on educational programming in Saskatchewan to offer curriculum in Indigenous languages and fill the current gap for programming for mathematics. This innovative work supports the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals of quality education and reduced inequality. Congratulations to the First Nations University of Canada for this prestigious award.
I'd now like to invite Dr. Arzu Sardali from First Nations University of Canada to speak about the project that he was involved in.
Thank you very much, Roger. My name is Arzu Sardali. I'm professor of physics and mathematics at Prince Albert campus of First Nations University of Alberta, Canada. First, I would like to congratulate Roger and Margaret that they were able to organize this event. These days, many events are postponed, but they were able to do everything in time. So to me, this means that everything is okay with sustainability of RCE Saskatchewan. I'm kind of informal person, and my wife told me that I had to start with acknowledgement, but indeed, when I talk about this project, the first thing I want to do is to thank many, many people. First of all, I would like to take an opportunity and thank the selection committee of RCE Saskatchewan on behalf of our team for recognizing our project. This is a great honor for us to receive the award named after one of the greatest educators of Saskatchewan and Canada, Lyle Banco. I would like to take an opportunity and thank my team members. If you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, this is our dictionary. If you could go to the next slide, please. I would like to take an opportunity and thank my team members, Ida Swan and Willie Ermine, for our ongoing collaboration. It's my great honor to work with these people. I would like to thank Elder Jerry Saddleback, Professors Solomon Redd and Nelson Mercy for reviewing the dictionary and providing invaluable advice. I would like to thank our First Nations University student, Jessica Rostovsky, for designing the cover page. Last but not least, I would like to thank our First Nations University and all our colleagues for supporting this project. This is the, I've been coordinating another project, the Weismer Mathematics Contest across Canada. And this contest is for First Nation schools. And that's why I communicate with those schools very closely. And in fact, this dictionary project started as a response to demands of First Nation schools. This is the first Cree dictionary of mathematical terms. We worked on this project for 3 years. First, next slide, please. First, we developed a glossary of mathematical terms based on school curriculums of Saskatchewan and other provinces of Canada. Then we developed the simple definitions of terms in English and visual examples. Next one, please. The next step was to find the Cree equivalents of mathematical terms. This was the most challenging part of our project, but due to the excellent job of my colleagues, Willie Ermine and Ida Swan, we were able to find the fitting words in Cree. I would like to quote the words of Professor Solomon Rett, one of the nationally recognized experts in this area. This quotation is about our dictionary. He said, how true those words are, especially when you consider that the people involved in translating English mathematical terms into Cree all from different communities and those speak different dialects. Jerry Saddleback is Northern Plains dialect speaker from Massachusetts. Willie Ermine is a Plains Cree dialect speaker from Sturgeon Lake. And Ida Swan is a Woods Cree dialect speaker from Pelican Narrows. What they put together is an amazing body of work that will be useful in Cree immersion schools. The dictionary was published at the University of Regina Printing Services. We donated almost all copies to schools of Cree nations across Canada. Until today, I keep receiving exciting comments from school teachers about the dictionary. Many of them ask me for extra copies. Unfortunately, we're not able to print out that many copies, but recently the Frontier School Division from Manitoba asked us our permission for printing out extra copies. I would like to share with you one more very interesting story relating to our dictionary. A couple of years ago, one of the graduated engineering students of University of Regina asked me to send him a copy of our dictionary. I asked him why he needs that. Apparently, he wanted to write the abstract of his PhD thesis in Cree. And very interesting is that the student is originally from Malaysia, and his native language is Turkish. But for expressing his respect for First Nations of Canada, he decided to write his abstract in Cree. And I'm very happy that our dictionary helped him. Many school teachers and Indigenous educators asked us to continue working on this project and extend it to K-12 format. I received letters from Dene, Dakota, and other Indigenous communities. They asked me to develop similar dictionaries in their Indigenous languages. From one side, I'm very happy to see the positive impact of our work. But from the other side, I realize how much more has to be done. As of today, the situation with teaching mathematics and science in First Nation schools is alarming. So imagine Indigenous children in our province do not have any possibility to learn mathematics and science in their native languages. To me, this is nothing but educational injustice. We all Canadians, educators, governments, have to work for fixing this problem. We know many good things have been done last year by Canadian government. In particular, I would like to mention the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. But this is just a beginning. We all have to work hard. I hope the recognition of our project by RCE Saskatchewan will encourage other educators to make their contribution to this very important mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sardali. Fantastic project, and thank you for also bringing up the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the importance of of not only preserving but enhancing our Indigenous languages at a global level and your work here locally. Thank you so much. This concludes our presentations to this year's worthy recipients, and I hope you have found it to be an educational process in its own right. We are now very fortunate to have with us Dr. Charles Hopkins, a good friend of RCE Saskatchewan, who has had a live or virtual presence at most of our RCE Saskatchewan recognition events. Dr. Hopkins is the UNESCO Chair in Reorienting Education Towards Sustainability at York University in Toronto, Canada. He has developed an international network of teacher preparation institutions spanning over 70 countries, focused upon teacher education to address sustainable development, as well as a global network on Indigenous youth and education for sustainable development. He is an advisor to UNESCO's Global Action Program on ESD, that's what Education for Sustainable Development abbreviated is, and acts as a UN University Global Advisor for RCEs around the world. He has advised ministries of education and institutions of higher education in 11 countries and is co-chair of the Asia Pacific Institute on ESD. Chuck's work on sustainable development goes back several decades, including early work at the first Rio Earth Summit in 1992. Dr. Hopkins will speak to us today on education and sustainability, 3 emerging frontiers with RCE implications. Welcome, Chuck.
There we go. Thanks, Roger.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, we'll just sort out the screen and so on for a second. But thank you so very, very much for the opportunity to once again be with you. I think my screen is blocked there at your end, but we'll work on it.
Yeah, we need participant screen sharing, please.
There we go. Sharing. There we go. All right, I think we've got it now. Can you hear me, Roger?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. All right. As I was saying, thank you so much for this opportunity. I think of these recognition events, I probably have been at all but one. And I really appreciate the effort of being able to not miss this year and to be able to be online. I guess one of the first things I wanted to say is the whole idea of congratulations, not only to the winners. I mean, the quality this year of the recipients is really spectacular, and I think that probably well, most of them would be worthy of taking up to the international level, you know, to the recognition event that the United Nations University Institute for Advanced Studies in Sustainability that they host as well. You know, that every year or two there's the big international meeting. But at any rate, I just wanted to say that. Also, thanks so much to Margaret and the technical team. That's it's pretty amazing that you've been able to pull this off with so few glitches. The other thing I wanted to say, you know, these recognition events, I think Saskatchewan was one of the very first ones, but they are so important and they're spreading. Up behind me is a soccer ball that with the Sustainable Development Goals on it. This was in China at a recognition event for classroom teachers who had built sustainability into their classrooms and into their curriculum design. The the last thing about just in general was the recognition that RCE Saskatchewan has been able to build. If you just look at the beginning of the program, the people who were bringing greetings and so on, so that the RCE really has grown into something that is very significant. Let me just say a word about the sort of the global history, because I know a number of the people who have received awards and so on are new to the whole thing. It dates back really to about 2002, when the United Nations decided that they should have a whole decade on trying to promote education, public awareness, and training programs around the world. And they came up with the UN decade for 10 years, from 2005 to 2014. And each of the UN agencies was to come up with a program, sort of a contribution to this. You know, we were addressing all kinds of large global issues. But the rector of the United Nations University, Hans von Genkel, we talked about the lack of progress really that was being made at the international level. And so we decided to create a program much more at the national level, or at the regional, the community level. Because there we weren't negotiating with, you know, we'll do this if you do that and so on. The kind of bartering that goes on at the international level that slows things down. At the community level, we could make decisions and just move forward on how we could make some progress. And so the idea that came forward was, how could we improve the flow of information? How could we create a much more knowledgeable community? And we thought we could bring together two main groups. One group would be the people who are the messengers in the community, the educators and so on. The people in not only in formal education in schools, preschools, universities and so on, but also the people who are in museums and zoos and botanical gardens and so on. So that was one group. The other group that we wanted to bring into it was the people who knew what had sort of the factual information at that local level of what are the social, environmental, and economic issues that are facing the community now, and what's likely to come. So how could we bring these two groups together at the local level? So at the heart of it, though, was the idea of how could we match up a program like that with education for sustainable development. And so in this slide, I'm just sort of showing on the left of the 4 RCE goals, and on the right, we have the goals, the national, or rather the international UNESCO goals and thrusts of education for sustainable development. So on the first goal, of course, for UNESCO, is to ensure access and retention to a quality education. So many people in the world had no access to education, or the education they had was just not appropriate. It wasn't successful, really wasn't useful to the students themselves. But the second thing at the UNESCO level was understanding it was our most educated countries that were creating some of the greatest problems for the planet. And so the idea, we needed to reorient the purpose of education from one of straight development, and progress, to one of a purpose of education to being sustainability and sustainable development. The third one was, though, that education and information flow goes much beyond formal education. And what we needed to do was to have an informed public. So public awareness, understanding of the issues that were there in the community. And fourthly, the training aspect. If where we do know how to do things better, how do we actually go ahead and do them, right? So this was the 4 parts. And if you look at the goals within the RCEs, this is what we were doing. And as we said, we started off with 7 around the world. The next year, I ended up coming to Saskatchewan. I ran into a man who knew everybody in Saskatchewan, Lyle Banco. And I talked with Lyle and Garth Pickard, and we talked about Saskatchewan is sort of the land of community, you know, the land of Tommy Douglas. It's the land of people looking after other people. And so we thought that Saskatchewan would be the fertile place to try and start one of these RCEs. And it has gone on so very, very well. Pardon me, I need to back up one. Anyway, we'll skip it. The idea of, I don't think, at any rate, what we were showing was basically that same idea of, no, next one, there we go. Thank you. So those 7 that began have grown to 175. And the work that we do is to share ideas around the programs, what each of the individual RCEs are doing. We meet fairly regularly by region. So there is a grouping of the Americas. There's another grouping of the African RCEs. The Asia Pacific RCEs meet, and sometimes it's every year, sometimes it's every 2 years, we meet internationally as well. And we keep ourselves informed with newsletters as to what is going on. This gathering, for instance, I'm sure will be reported and published in the international newsletter. And the other thing that we're doing is we come together to conduct research and so on for moving forward. One of the things, as we said in the beginning in 2000, was to try and promote the UN Decade of Education for Sustainable Development. Now, what is happening is that we are repurposing the RCEs from around the world to try and contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. We have started a program it's called ESD for 2030. This is the collective work of the world's RCEs to contribute on the international level. But our particular approach is, how do we bring these 17 goals down into a much more local context? Okay? How do we make them real, tangible, and how can we use these big ideas to actually improve the quality of our education systems and to improve our communities as well? So there are 2 sort of aspects to how we are using ESD now. One is, as you could see on the staircase and so on, that education for sustainable development is a part of the whole SDG 4 on education. It's a very important part, in fact. In fact, very little in the way of is really specified to the extent that ESD should be embedded in all levels of education. It just warmed my heart to see the leadership of universities in this year's awards ceremony. But the other thing was that education, public awareness and training is an integral part in the implementation of all of the SDGs. So that the United Nations has recognized that. Sorry, I'm having a difficulty moving the slides here. So collectively is a way of looking at it. We need to look at the SDGs not so much as an individual, like no one can do them all. But what we need to do is to look at how we can look at them collectively. There was an Indigenous person who put it very, very nicely when she said, it's like a quilt, like a patchwork quilt. Each one individually doesn't really help you. But if you bring them all together and sew them together so that they function as one, that's where they're really helpful. So the idea of looking at them in clusters, the SDGs that focus around people, right? That used to, that in the original setting, we had social, environmental, and economic. Now we're looking at the social becoming people. It's so that we can come up with 5 Ps. It's a little cute, but still it's a nice idea. So that social would be people, and the economics is around prosperity, and the environment around planet. But we've added 2 new ones. One is peace, and I think coming up in the next couple of days is the UN Day, UN Day on Peaceful Societies, living together in peace. The other one that I think is so important, and I will come back to, is the whole idea of partnerships. And what the RCE does so very, very nicely is to look at how we can build these kinds of partnerships for the community. I was sort of asked, each year when I speak, I try to bring some of the new thinking and new ideas that are starting to be percolating into the RCEs in these sort of brief little talks at the end, as well as the idea of the RCEs focusing now on bringing the Sustainable Development Goals home to the community, adapting and developing local Sustainable Development Goals and working in the communities, that one on delivering water systems in rural community. Another idea that has come forward is the whole idea of building resilient communities. How do you build resilience in there? So the idea of focusing on disaster and risk reduction, resilience, and so on, building that into our education systems. This is a big issue in the RCEs of Asia. It's a big idea in the RCEs of Africa as well. But it's also one that is emerging in the Americas. RCE Atlanta and some of the RCEs along the East Coast of the United States are really focusing and been able to receive a fair bit of money to address the issues of climate change in preparing for the typhoons and hurricanes and storms that are there. But also we need to be preparing for drought. How do we change and design for the future? There are three, for instance, the whole idea of migration, of forced migration. We just learned that by 2050, well over 1 billion people are going to be forced to move on this planet. So the idea of how do we, in our RCE network, how do we look at the three big issues of addressing it? One being prevention. How do we prevent them needing to leave, right? The second thing is how do we make it either more palatable? How do we mitigate the extent of the problem? And thirdly, how do we learn to adapt? How do we build into our societies the idea of living sustainably and peacefully with the other? So these are big issues that are coming up. We have UNESCO itself. You can see on this slide is rapidly producing materials in conjunction with local communities. We're looking at a number of other RCEs from around the world that are working on it. And one of the big issues is how do we build in the youth network aspect? So those are some of the ideas that are there. The whole notion of, suddenly a pandemic, people hadn't been thinking of that along the same line, but at least this gets us thinking. And with it is the whole idea of how do we build back better? If we are going to realize that we will be having these issues in front of us, then adding to that prevention, mitigation, adaptation is the whole concept in the adaptation of building back better and planning for it. Now, the third big area that is emerging, and I wanted to blend this in because of what was so present this morning, beginning with Elder Audrey, and is being hosted by First Nations University, is within a number of the RCEs around the world, is looking at how education for sustainable development could perhaps improve the education of Indigenous youth, because these are some of the issues that are not unique to Saskatchewan. They are global issues. And so one of the big projects that's going on, it's not limited to RCEs, but it certainly involves RCEs in each of the major regions of the world, is a research project where we are looking at three main projects. The first project, that was already been carried out, is looking at the quality of education, but mainly from a perspective of the Indigenous communities themselves. So it's not necessarily how do we improve the teaching of history or geography, language arts and so on, but it is what does the Indigenous community itself feel would constitute a quality education. And in settings in 38 countries, we looked at the messages from the elders as what they thought should be in their education. We looked at parents, students, the Ministry of Education, of course, and also the students themselves. So we've brought those issues together, and we see that in most parts, the Indigenous communities do want to have a quality education that will allow them to operate as full, dignified citizens in both worlds. That is important, because a lot of the education that we are trying to do in mainstream education is sort of aligned along with what we call 21st century skills and so on. That is not alien, but they do have additional aspects that they would like to see communicated. The second big thing that is underway now in this project around the world is the idea of what is working, why is it working, and how can we understand, is it transferable to other places? How do we collect good practice and understand what makes it a good practice, and how can we share that with policymakers, both in ministries of education, but in the Indigenous communities themselves? So one of the early RCEs is the picture at the top was Greater Sudbury here in Canada. The other picture is the newest RCE in the world. It's from Malaysia, Gombak. It includes, well, part of it actually encroaches right into Kuala Lumpur, but it has a large focus on traditional knowledge and is a home of Indigenous people. So culture and so on will be a big part of that one as well. But the research that is going on in this project called Indigenous ESD is scattered, as you can see there, around the world. Now, another part they could almost say was the fourth component of the talk is how do we engage youth? This is an important component of the RCEs. It's not so much, as Margaret pointed out so nicely, it's not just giving people facts. That doesn't necessarily change behavior and so on. We know that. But how can we engage youth, make them aware in the skills that they are going to need? Media literacy it will be important. Communication skills. How do they get their voice out there? How do we do that in a way that aligns with their overall objectives of a good quality education? How can we treat them with respect? How do we address the idea that, especially at the university level, their time that is there is fleeting? You know, you don't stay as a young person all that long. So how do we generate leadership skills within it? So this is a whole new idea of just simply we need to tell them. It's about how do we truly engage people in this. So in closing, I just want to reinforce the whole concept of partnerships that was shown this morning. The idea of how do we bring people together. Now, Sustainable Development Goal 17 is the closing one. Is that we do need this. This governments cannot do it alone. You know, so although we have municipalities as part of the RCEs, they can't do it on their own. Schools can't do it on their own. NGOs can't do it on their own. We need this collaborative approach of working together. And the idea of the RCE, not controlling or being over everyone at all, but being that facilitator, that idea of how do we get the horsepower that we have within all these institutions, how do we make these things work much better together? So I thank you very, very much for the opportunity of being here with you, and we'll turn it back over now to Roger. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Chuck, for a wonderful presentation and allowing us to be on the cutting edge again with your key insights about what's going on at a global level. We do rely on volunteers as an RCE, and so to engage some of the newer topics that you're looking at, if anyone receiving awards or watching today would like to become an individual or an organizational member of RCE Saskatchewan, don't hesitate to contact us. Our website is www.saskrce.ca. We always have opportunities for participation. And in fact, we're looking for some new youth coordinators, co-coordinators in that area, for example. So we would really appreciate your participation. And as Chuck mentioned, a number of your projects today are of such an exceptional nature. If you would like to become a flagship project of RCE Saskatchewan, we have a process for recognizing that, and then you would be reporting directly to the UN University system and be open to receiving awards from the global RCE network. In conclusion, I would again like to thank First Nations University of Canada for hosting us today, the Faculty of Science at the University of Regina for their technical support, and a special thank you to you, Margaret, our event coordinator. We've had a great day, and I hope you found the presentations and videos as inspirational as I have. Long-term work for sustainable development requires dedication and above all, hope for our future. This morning's presentations demonstrate that hope, along with the amazing capacities we can build when we work together at local and regional levels, and we connect with other regions and RCs around the world in common cause for our planet. Thanks to all of you for participating and sharing with us today, and that ends this year's recognition event. Thank you so much.